What's up, bro? Welcome to another episode of the Brandon Janeau Show. As you know, I am Brandon Janeau, and like always, on all podcast platforms everywhere, Brandon Janeau Show, man. Also, all pretty much my YouTube channel, Brandon Janeau Show, as well. Also, social media platforms, Instagram and TikTok. It is Brandon Janeau Show. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let's get into it. This is actually point of view or random shit. So, uh, I wanted to speak on this because I wanted to talk about it, man. So everybody knows I love sports. I love sports. I don't care what sport it is. I love it. Well, yeah, I know all sports really. I actually like. I watch all sports. I just, I'm more into certain sports more than others. But you know, um, but one sport that has definitely become the epicenter of, I guess the epicenter of iconic moments again. You know what I'm saying? Like 2023 has been the best year for boxing. It truly is. Super fights has been everywhere. Super fights are everywhere. Um, and you know, we've had certain super fights the last couple of years, but never like to this extent where every month is a super fight. And I was just watching Spencer Crawford do their last the last press conference before Saturday night, and that is literally the biggest super fight of this year to me personally. Um, I've watched Bud Crawford and Errol Spence fights for the last couple years. Them dudes have kind of been like mirror images of each other. It's going to be fun to see it. I literally do not know who's going to win this fight, and when this episode comes out, the fight is already going to have happened. So I don't know who's going to win. I just hope that it's a great fight. I think it's going to be one of the best fights we've seen in a long time. Um, I do think it could end very quickly. It could last very quick, a very long time. I don't know because both these men are kind of very skilled at what they do best. My thing about this is, like I said, super fights are back in boxing, and I feel like when super fights are like this, when boxing has this, it feels like the '80s. It feels like the '90s. Well, yeah, '80s, main so more so. '90s and 2000s. 2000s kind of was 90s and 2000s. '80s were really surrounded by Mike Tyson, but you also had Tommy Hearns, marvelous Marvin Haggard, marvelous Marvin Hagler. I'm mess up this man's name. Late great Hagler, Mr. Hagler. Uh, you also had Sugar Ray Leonard. Uh, I said Sugar Ray, yeah, Sugar Ray Leonard. Roberto Duran. You had a lot of great boxers in the '80s. Cesar Chavez, and then in the '90s you had, and also in that time frame of boxing in the '80s was Mike Tyson and all of these boxers. And boxing kind of faded, not faded, but it kind of lost its appeal. And then Floyd Mayweather came out of nowhere and put it back on the map. Floyd's fights were super fights because Floyd was in it. Anytime Floyd fought, it was you got to be at the eyeballs on the TV. It got to the point where either you wanted to see Floyd lose because you just didn't want him to be perfect because you just didn't want him to be like the best boxer, or you wanted him to win, and you were cool with him doing this, and you knew the science of boxing of how great Floyd was as a defensive boxer and how great he was as a boxer to switch up his entire shit boxing skills because if you watch Floyd in the beginning of his career, he was knocking motherfuckers out, and he decided to just switch it up and go into the defensive mind of boxing, where I don't have to get hit. I can just make you look stupid and hit you while you look stupid. So, so you know, But in that sense, Floyd kind of derailed the boxing world. You know what I'm saying? You had Manny, Canelo started to come on. You had other guys, but it never was like another big fight like that until we got Floyd Manny. But it was so late in our primes that we were kind of like, I take it, I guess. Yeah, that's cool. So this is why 2023 has been pretty fucking great to see so many young boxers who are like fuck undefeated. I want to fight you. I want to put my undefeated against your undefeated. I want to fight. And to see, you know, and it feels like boxing's back in that sense again. Like, and I don't know if it's because of this new generation being like, my legacy's tied to actually having a real fight, a real super fight. I gotta beat these guys compared to when Floyd was, because Floyd was the best. Floyd was the best, and you could sit here and say, well, Manny would have beaten them if they were in their prime. Maybe, possibly. I saw the Manny fight. I think what Manny would have done in his prime was what he did in the actual fight. He got to Floyd a couple times. He hit Floyd a couple times. He fucked Floyd up a couple times, but it wasn't to the point where Floyd was going to lose. And I think that was the thing. This era now of boxing, a lot of these guys are like, fuck it, let's throw the records out the window and let's just fight. And I like that. I like that shit. You see Tank and Ryan Garcia fight, even though I knew Tank was gonna win that fight easily because Ryan Garcia doesn't have anything but a fucking powerful left hand, right hook. That's all he had was the right hook. Like that's all he had was a right hook. He didn't have really a key jab. He didn't have any of that shit. I knew Tank was boxily sound better than him, but it was still good to see two men say, you know what, fuck it, let's just fight. Let's just fight. Fuck it, let's fight. And to see that happen, and now to see, you know, shit Tuesday, even though that fight was not even close, and it was that shit was not even close. Like I got up in the morning, I started watching that fight, and by like the third round, I already knew the fight was over. I'm like, Felton has no chance. God damn. Felton fucked up because he kept trying to fight him his way. He wanted to fight him in the inside, and it was not going to work. If he would have completely switched up his game plan, he probably could have got him a couple times because you know he wasn't really he kept standing in front of him. I don't understand that game plan. I don't know why the fuck he was standing in front of him. He was getting his ass absolutely hit every fucking chance. I didn't understand that shit, but I didn't understand that shit. He was just standing there getting his ass hit. But to see that fight too, and you got other fights that's coming up where, like I said, Saturday Crawford Spence, but then you got Canelo and Charlo. Um, Eventually you're gonna have other fights come up. Devin Haney and Lomachenko fought. Excuse me. Um, which I think Devin Haney is not going to fight anybody in the lightweight division. I think he is going to lead the division. I know his father and him have talked a big game and said they're going to stay in that division and fight. They're not going to stay in that division and fight not a motherfucking soul because they know damn well if Haney fights anybody that isn't Lomachenko, who by the way Lomachenko barely did anything in that fight for the first couple of rounds, he just kept countering him. And then the 12, and this is why so many people thought Lomachenko won because the 10 and 11 round, he just easily dominated it. So if you fight somebody that kind of comes out, maybe gives you the first 2 rounds, but then dissects you in the third, fourth, fifth round, you ain't gonna last. And I think that's why Devin Haney is not gonna fight Tank. He ain't fighting Tank. He ain't fighting Shakur Stevenson. He probably ain't gonna even fight Lomachenko again. He's not gonna fight any of these guys. I don't even think he should fight Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez will fuck him up. He shouldn't fight any of these dudes that he thinks he can beat. He can. If you think you can beat them, you're not gonna win. Boxing is such a very particular sport, man. It's a lot of people have grown into, and this is why also boxing has also kind of fell off the wayside. It kind of fell a little bit too, is because the UFC has become more of the combat sport that we love. I do wrestling life on here, and I talk about wrestling, but that's wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Combat sport, but it's not like UFC. It's not like you know what I'm saying. And UFC has kind of also took in what boxing was. But the problem with the UFC, and I think people are starting to realize this, is that it's cool to get the fight that we want to see, but it's kind of like this is why a lot of your guys are also retiring or leaving the company so fast because it's like after I fight this dude, there's nothing really left for me to fucking do except beat the same motherfuckers I've already beaten and dominant. I've beaten them dominant, by the way, and it kind of feels like that's kind of what UFC is. Whereas for boxing, that's why I think a lot of people are gravitating towards boxing because it's like this is for the first time we haven't had a lot of these fighters saying "fuck it, let's fight." And I don't want to ever blame Floyd for this, but Floyd is kind of one of the reasons for why boxing is the way it is because as great as he was and as diverse as he was as a boxer, he cherry picked. Same thing with Canelo. They cherry picked. They damn sure didn't fight the person they were supposed to fight right then and there. And I think that is kind of why boxing is in the position that boxing is in. And I think that's why Super Fights right now is so incredible because it's like a lot of these guys aren't following the Floyd Mayweather route. They're going into like the 80s route where it's like, I got to fight the best. I want to prove I'm the best. I got to fight the best. The state of boxing is in a good space. I hope it continues. I hope a lot of these dudes don't start ducking and dodging because they know who they can beat and who they can't beat, and they know it already. So they're gonna like prolong the conversation or prolong the fight because they don't want to fight that person. And a lot of these dudes also in their early 20s, so a lot of them could actually fight these dudes, lose, and then come back stronger in the next couple of fights. But they don't do that. That's when that would happen in the early 2000s, late 2010, early 2000, late 2000s, early 2010s when Floyd was the man. Floyd did not fight everybody right out the gate. He did kind of wait his time when he fought Manny, and it was very smart of him to do so. But he did fight the top contenders. He did fight them. He did fight the top contenders in the welterweight division. I will not ever say he didn't. He fought Canelo when Canelo was too young. And we all knew Canelo probably wasn't gonna be Floyd. But the way he schooled his ass in that fight, I go back and watch that shit now and just be sitting there like, God damn, Canelo had no chance, bro. I knew he had no chance, but like to watch that fight, it's like and here's how crazy this is. If you actually watch Canelo's fights that he's actually lost, like he's only lost what I think like two fights, Floyd and then the Beavidall fight. Even the Triple G fight, which he should have lost the first one. Let's be real, he should have fucking lost the first one. Those fights, it's the same shit that hurts him. It's not even anything that's changed. It's the same shit that hurts him. The jab. He gets fucked up with the jab. It's just like the easiest shot to get him with because he's so quick and he's so ready to hit you. But you tag him now, he got like reset, and it's like once you reset, it's like okay, well, now I got you in a whole nother conversation. I can hit you again, and now you keep on resetting because you gotta reset to get your power. And once you watch fights like that and you watch these boxers, it's kind of interesting to see the people they decide to not fight because a lot of these dudes are just not fighting certain people. I did this episode tonight to talk about that because super fights to me, man. I think when boxing is at its apex, like it is right now with a lot of these super fights, it can actually rival the Super Bowl. It can get people in the stands faster than anything. It will literally fill up um, a building quicker than anything. I think Saturday night is going to be the prime example of that. Crawford Spence is a fight that if you're a boxing fan like I am, you've been waiting to see for a long time, and it's about fucking time these two men finally are going to fight. To see these two men fight each other is going to be great. I don't know who's going to win, to be honest with you. I think Spence is going to win. Like I said, I just watched the press conference. Crawford seemed a little bit more emotionally engaged in this shit than Spence is. Spence is kind of just like, bro, I just want to fight. I ain't got time for this shit. And like I said, this is before the fight even comes out. This is coming out after the fight comes out. So I am literally I don't know who's gonna win. But what I will say is this, man, boxing's in a good space. I can't wait to see who Tank fights next after he gets all of his legal and things under control and everything. I can't wait to see who Tank fights. I can't wait to see who if Henny stays in the lightweight or does he move up. Um, I can't wait to see what happens in the heavyweight division because Tyson Fury is fighting um, the UFC guy, but you know what's happening in the world heavyweight title picture because Deontay Wilder is still there. You got Anthony Joshua still there. You got a lot of guys still there. You know, like I said, the welterweight division with Terrence and Terrence and Spence. But then you also got Canelo and the middleweight with Canelo and all of them. So it's gonna be pretty interesting to see how this all plays out. I don't know who wins these upcoming fights. I don't know who wins these upcoming fights. But I do know this, man. Boxing's in a good space. Hopefully it stays that way. And that is the key point. If it stays this way, boxing can literally rival the Super Bowl. And I think that I'm not speaking and will surpass UFC, who is now the combat sport that everybody loves. I think boxing would surpass UFC again because there's nothing like a good super fight in boxing, man. As much as we love UFC, you kind of do know it's getting redundant. Some of these fights are kind of like recycling each other. It's like I don't want to see the same dudes fight for the third fucking time. I don't care, and I think that that's kind of the thing. For me personally, man, I can't wait to see what happens Saturday night, and I can't wait to see what happens with boxing for the rest of the year. Hopefully, like I said, this is not just a one-off. This is a trend, and it continues where super fights are made because it actually makes the boxing world better. And I hope it continues that way. Till then, man, I'm Brandon Janeau. Peace.